Tonight, I want to talk about a small game that left a surprisingly big impression on me. It's called From Me to You, created by Vidas Games, a short horror experience that you can find for free on itch.io. It's only about 256 megabytes in size, yet somehow, it manages to feel cinematic, emotional, and deeply unsettling. When I first downloaded it, I didn't expect much. A quick 10-minute indie game. How much could it really do? But right from the opening, I could tell there was something different about it. The atmosphere felt thick and deliberate. The lighting was cold, the air heavy. It didn't throw jump scares at me. It just waited. And that patience was terrifying. The opening moments are quiet, just me, a dimly lit room, and the faint hum of sound that sits somewhere between a whisper and a memory. The environment isn't hyper-realistic, but it feels alive. Every flicker of light, every echoing step has meaning. There's this eerie sense that someone has just left the room, or that they are still there, watching from the shadows. I love games that don't rush. From Me to You takes its time, letting the silence stretch. It's a cinematic kind of horror, not about what's jumping out of the DAC, but what's hiding in the space between sounds. You find yourself leaning in, trying to listen, trying to understand what the world is trying to say. As I start exploring, I realize how intentional everything feels. The world isn't cluttered. There's space. The minimalism works in its favor. It leaves you room to breathe, but never quite enough to relax. The game constantly suggests that something is coming, even when nothing is. That tension builds all by itself. The sound design is what really drew me in. There are no screaming violins or sudden stings. Instead, it's the sound of loneliness, quiet, heavy, familiar. It feels like grief. That's what makes it so unsettling. It's not just scary, it's sad. As I move through hallways and open locked doors, I notice the details: a faint flicker in a corner, a door that creaks slightly too long, an object that seems placed just for you to find. The world feels handcrafted. And the more I play, the more I sense that this isn't a story about monsters. It's about memory, about loss, about something that was once human. Somewhere around the halfway mark, I start piecing things together. The title, From Me to You, starts to echo in my head. It sounds like a message, a farewell, maybe, a confession. The game never spells it out, but it doesn't need to. You can feel it in the way it moves. Every indie horror game tries to scare you. This one tries to talk to you, quietly, patiently, like someone telling a secret they've been holding for too long. And that's where it shines. The visuals feel dreamlike. Not crisp or flashy, more like something recorded on an old camera, where the footage is too bright in places and too dark in others. That cinematic grain adds so much mood. It feels like a memory, imperfect, fading, incomplete. As I go deeper, I realize how much this game trusts the player. There's no HUD, no waypoints, no tutorial pop-ups. It just leaves you to wonder, to listen, to think. And that trust creates immersion. You stop playing and start existing inside it. The pacing is slow, deliberate, and I love that. It allows the fear to breathe. Horror isn't about constant action. It's about anticipation. From Me to You builds that perfectly. You start fearing the quiet, the stillness, the nothingness between moments. Then, just when you think you've understood what's going on, the game turns. The tone shifts. There's a subtle unease, a small visual cue, and suddenly the story you thought you were following begins to unravel. Without giving too much away, the final few minutes reframe everything you've seen. It's not about what's out there, it's about what's inside, the memories, the regrets, the ghosts we carry. The twist isn't loud or shocking. It's emotional. You realize that the real horror isn't a creature or a sound, it's a feeling. The fear of forgetting, the fear of being forgotten, the fear of loss that lingers even after the story ends. As the game closes, I find myself just sitting there in silence, watching the final scene fade out. The sound fades to nothing, and all that's left is thought. It's strange how a 10-minute game can make you feel so much. It's cinematic, it's deliberate, and it's haunting in the softest way possible. I think that's what indie horror does best. It takes small ideas and turns them into experiences. From Me to You doesn't rely on shock value. It relies on craft. It uses lighting and sound, pacing and emptiness, to build emotion. and that emotion stays with you. What amazes me most is that this entire experience fits into a 256 megabyte download. That's smaller than a lot of images on my phone, and yet it manages to feel larger than life. It proves that horror isn't about size or graphics. It's about atmosphere and meaning. The ending, for me, lands like a whisper. A quiet message passed from the developer to the player. A simple, human gesture that says, "This is what I felt, and now it's yours to feel, too." That's what the title means. It's not just a story, it's a hand reaching across the screen. From me to you. When the credits roll, I think about how many indie games are doing things like this, blending art, emotion, and fear in ways big studios often can't. There's something pure about that. No corporate polish, no overproduced gloss, just a small, honest story about something that hurts. If you're someone who loves atmospheric horror, or you just appreciate games that make you feel something, go play From Me to You. It's free on itch.io. Support the developer, leave a comment, and share your interpretation. Everyone sees this story a little differently, and that's the beauty of it. For me, it was a reflection on grief and connection. For someone else, it might be about memory, or forgiveness, or simply the loneliness of being unseen. And that's what good horror should do. It makes you think after the fear fades. So yeah, it's short, it's small, but it's special. It's one of those experiences that remind you why indie games matter. Because sometimes, in just 10 minutes, a small project can tell a story that lingers far longer than any big-budget production. That's From Me to You. A cinematic, emotional little horror experience that manages to say everything it needs to, quietly, hauntingly, beautifully. Thanks for listening. I'm Jaigao, and this was my take on From Me to You. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to subscribe. And if you decide to play the game yourself, let me know what you thought about that ending. Until next time, keep your lights low, your volume high, and your curiosity alive. Good night. So even though it's just a 10-minute game, barely 256 megabytes, free to download on itch.io, it somehow manages to do something a lot of long games can't. It makes you feel connected. That's why I love covering indie horror games like this. They remind me that art doesn't need scale to have meaning. It doesn't need realism to feel real. Sometimes, all it needs is a quiet space, a flickering light, and a single line of dialogue that sticks with you after the screen goes dark. From Me to You ends, but its silence doesn't. That silence stays with you. It becomes part of you. And maybe that's exactly what the creator intended. So, if you're listening right now, and you haven't played it yet, go try it. Take 10 minutes. Put on your headphones. Turn off the lights. Let yourself fall into the stillness. See what it wants to tell you. Because maybe the message isn't just from the developer. Maybe it's from every story you've ever played, every emotion you've tried to bury, every little thing you've forgotten to say. Maybe it's from you to you. Thanks for listening.